Guys, we are back once again with my friend Joseph, and today we're going to use some of the things we've made before,
including the bag bellows from the previous video and this furnace that was teased also in the previous video.
And today we are going to try and extract iron from iron ore.
So blacksmithing is primitive. You're like raw, dealing with the elements, beating on a piece of iron, but where did the blacksmith get the iron? And that's what we're doing today. We're going to make iron.
So what materials are we going to start with? I know we've got our bellows and we've got our bloom furnace, which is basically a cylinder of clay.
Yes, a cylinder of clay with a hole in the bottom so that we can pump air into it.
All right, what else do we need?
We need to make basically a lasagna out of ore and charcoal. And what's going to happen is, as the fire burns, it's going to sink down into the fire. And what we're going to keep doing is adding a little bit more charcoal and then a little bit more ore. And it's going to make layers like a lasagna on its way down. And on its way down, it's going to get hot, but the heat is not what converts this into metal. You could get this crazy hot and what you would have is molten red rocks. In order to make iron, you need a chemical reaction to happen. And for that, our secret ingredient is charcoal. Charcoal is basically pure carbon, and when it burns, it produces carbon monoxide. This is why you should never ever burn it inside. The temperature is going to melt off all of the glassy stuff, all of the silica, and then the carbon monoxide is literally going to rip off oxygen atoms from the iron ore, leaving us with iron.
So we've got this full. There's a little bit of wood down at the bottom. The top layer is pretty much all charcoal at this point, and then we have our first batch of iron oxide. It's not even slightly warm yet because not much oxygen is getting into this, so the fire is staying very low until we use the bellows to flood it with oxygen and just get it blazing hot.
And you can think of it in different temperature zones. Up here it's like just drying off if there's any moisture in the ore or the charcoal, and as it gets a little bit lower it'll heat up, and then right around here it'll get hot enough that it will start converting. And then it will get close to the oxygen again, but what we're pumping in is oxygen, and that's exactly the thing we're trying to get rid of. So what will happen is the iron bits are going to turn into iron, and then as they come past here there's a danger that they'll turn back into rust. Fortunately, we have a secret ingredient also included in the ore, and that is the glassy stuff, the sand. And so that's going to melt and coat all of those little particles of ore, protecting them from the oxygen until they settle down here in the bottom zone of the fire.
Let's pump some air.
Let's do it. So what we're doing right here is we are pre-roasting the ore, and this is particularly useful for hydrated ores, in other words, ores that have water molecules bounded onto them, similar to the way that concrete has water bound onto it. And so what we're doing is we're roasting it. And the other thing that does is it makes it way easier to grind down into the pea gravel and powder size that we need to put it in the furnace. Joseph and I tried grinding this up like normal, and it was miserable. So roasting it is a good thing. When you find reddish rocks, like in, say, the Grand Canyon area, it doesn't take very much iron to stain a rock red, so just because it's red doesn't mean there's a lot of iron there. The first smelt I did with iron failed miserably because I had red rocks and I assumed that they were iron. Turns out they only had like 3% iron. I tested that after I failed with it.
All right, we want to do an update. This has been running for several hours, and although we did use the bag bellows for many hours, we also did decide it's okay if we cheat a little bit.
Especially since we ran into a problem where we were not going through enough ore fast enough to finish within like a day.
In order to speed things up, we got an electric air pump, and that goes a lot faster. The bag bellows was working. We were getting everything processing. It was just processing slowly.
And it was so cool. Well, except for the fact that it was hot and in the sun and next to a 2,000-degree furnace. But other than that, it was cool.
We opened up the back of it to try and let some slag burn out. Slag is everything that's in the iron ore that isn't the iron itself, and we found that we believe we have a good-sized lump of iron.
Now this could be just a bunch of slag, or it could be a bunch of iron and slag, so we can cool that off
first.
Yeah, let's throw that in a bucket of water.
What do you think it was? Mostly iron or mostly slag?
Mostly slag.
Mostly slag. Okay, big old blob of slag.
So the way to tell is you whack it with a hammer. If it shatters, it's slag. If it dents, it's iron. And as you can see, it's probably a little over 200 degrees. The cool thing about this is the partially reduced bits I can just throw back on the fire and we can recycle this. Whee!
At this point, we have enough heat in our bloom furnace that we have slag pouring out. This stuff looks like lava. And since a lot of it's melted rock, it kind of is lava. It's just lava from rocks that used to have a lot of iron in it. Getting slag this runny is a good sign because it usually means there is a higher concentration of iron in the ore. And so the fact that we're seeing this is a very good sign.
Slag is forming? I would say yes! Holy crap! That is iron. So the furnace has been burning for a very, very long time. You may notice from the lighting that it's late afternoon. And what we've done is we've managed to get through all the ore in those layers. And I can feel with this thing that there's a big lump of something right there. Is it iron? Please be iron.
Whew. Now you can see how thick the walls are on this thing. Oh boy, that's a big old blob of something.
Is it iron?
I can't tell yet.
I'm going to clear out some of that charcoal. And again, right here. More? More, yes. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Nice. Okay. Is it loose?
Not really.
Oh, come on. Where are you?
Oh, you were really close to cracking that.
That is an iron bloom.
Let me see that hammer log.
Yes, please do. Okay, let's try to get a piece out, put it on this wooden anvil, and then compress it. Ah! Whack it. Now's the time to compress it. Nate, go for broke. You want to be gentle at first, but see if you can get it to compress in on itself at all.
It looks like a meteor.
It does. Can you see it deforming at all?
I think so.
Nice.
No.
Okay, so this purplish red rust that you see up here, that's a really good sign, as is that bluish stuff right there. Like this, and hold it
So
by light.
that lump maybe.
This is iron! I'm gonna join a heavy metal band because of how awesome this feels. That is so cool.
So is there still slag in this, or do you think this is pure iron at this point?
This has got tons of slag and probably even some charcoal in it.
All right, Joseph, so we started out with a bunch of red dirt.
Yes.
And a bunch of
Well,
charcoal.
actually, we started out with red rocks and we had to grind them down painstakingly.
Red rocks into red dirt.
Yes.
So we just burned it for like 6 or 7 hours.
Yes. Yes, we just burned it for 6
And
or
now
7
we got
hours.
this.
Yep.
Very cool. So this right here should be able to be turned into a block of iron, similar to what Joseph has made before. To get this to turn into something like that, it will involve some heat, some hammering, maybe gathering up pieces as it smashes out all the remaining slag and charcoal that's stuck in this. But this should have quite a bit of good refinable iron in it. And next, Joseph is gonna take this and turn it into a brick, kind of like this, and at that point, he can start blacksmithing it.
So hardcore. This is so cool. Yeah!
He's a little bit excited. Yeah, this is pretty cool. I haven't done this 5 times before to varying levels of success to have his same level of excitement, but I am quite happy that this turned out. I'm quite happy for the knowledge he already had and shared with us to make sure this did turn out. And I'm really interested to see what gets made out of this.
Thanks, I'll have to show you, it'll be great.
Guys, that's it for today, but there's always more for you to see. That box up at the top will take you to our last video, and you should check that one out. The other box will show you what YouTube thinks you should be watching next. And if you hit this bomb in the middle, you will be subscribed to the channel, and that way you'll never miss out on a cool video. Don't forget to ring that bell, and we will see you in the next one. Talk to you then.